right here called The Black Church, where women pray and men pray. Now, since this book has come out, a lot of people have written to ask me questions about the book, and I thought it would be good to collect those questions and put the answers on a videotape so that you could get the benefit of all the different questions that have come in. The number one question that I'm asked is, why did you write a book that's critical of the black church? You must have been hurt by a church, they say. You were dogged out by somebody and you're only writing this book because you want to get back at the church. That is factually untrue. I say that right in the beginning of the book, but for the course, if you haven't read the book, you don't know that. But there's nothing about this book that was written because I've been hurt by anyone. I don't go to church. So there would be no opportunity for that situation and those chain of events to happen to affect me. What we have are a group of people that can't quite seem to understand that, I don't have to smoke drugs to see that drugs can do bad things. I don't need to drive drunk and be killed in a car accident to know that maybe driving drunk's not the right thing to do. The same thing with going to a church that's headed by an individual that is not the right kind of person. I don't need to personally experience it. I can learn from other people's mistakes, and I can also hear from other people about the mistakes that they've made and share those mistakes with you. That is what the book is all about. It has nothing to do with me personally. It has everything, though, to do with the individuals, men, women, and children in this country that are being negatively affected by the wrong kind of folks heading up churches. Another question that comes in is, well, I'm happy with my church. Why should I read this book? And that's a good question, but I'm going to say this. If you have a church that you're happy with, congratulations. But think about all of those that are not. And think about relatives that you may have that are not. And think about your nieces and nephews and your friends and your neighbors that may be involved in churches where they're being taken advantage of. They're not going to know the situation. They won't have the information and the tools that you have to be able to help them see their way clear of these particular individuals. So I'm looking at, the number of seniors that are our parents and grandparents that go to churches. We need to protect them. If you're a man, even if you don't go to church yourself, surely you have female relatives that do. So those of us that are in positions to understand how these games are being run need to have a way to communicate those games and warnings to the people that we care about. That, to me, is a very valid reason for pretty much everyone to read this book. And I think that another benefit to it is that it's not written in an academic fashion. A lot of books that are written on these kinds of topics are written in, with words, syllables this long, and they're really hard for people to understand. This book is written in plain language, very matter-of-factly, not a lot of big words that are going to send you to the dictionary or that are confusing, no confusing language styles. Very direct, very straightforward, very matter-of-fact. There are lots of quotes from people that have personally experienced the things that I'm talking about, so you can see the concepts that I'm discussing juxtaposed against reality. And these are individuals that have lived these situations, experienced them personally, sharing their stories with you. Okay, then we have another question here. Well, why do you think that why did you focus only on black churches? Why not every church? Think of all the stuff that's going on in the Catholic Church. You didn't talk about them. That's true. And you know why? Because my market has always been, since I launched my very first website in 1997, on African American relationships and African American women primarily. So it really wouldn't make sense for me to veer from that course and start talking about something which is outside the scope of my expertise. Not only that, several studies have come out that specifically demonstrate that African American women are the most religious demographic in the country. Black women support black churches to the tune of $480 billion over a 20-year period that ended in 2000. So now we're on to 2012. You figure out, this is the advent of the mega church since then. How many more billions of dollars have black women come out of pocket for to support these churches? So when I'm writing this book, I'm looking at that demographic, that particular market, the market that is the most religious, the market that is most likely to go to church, the market that is most likely to be in a position to be fleeced and gamed on, like those that I'm talking about in the book. Okay, then another question is, well, why are you trying to say that? You make it sound like all pastors are bad and that people shouldn't go to church. You're a heathen. Well, I can say this. Nowhere in this book did I use the word all. Okay, it should go without saying, but I guess it needs to be said. When one's making a critical assessment of something, you're going to be talking about the people that are doing the acts that you're talking about. Okay, so say I'm talking about, I don't know, children that cheat on tests. Well, I'm not saying all children. I'm saying the children that cheat on the test. The same thing if I talk about people that drink and drive. Well, I'm not talking about all drivers. I'm talking about all the drivers that drink and drive. So the same thing is here, people. Come on now, really? So it's the kind of thing like I'm talking about particular individuals in black churches that represent themselves as men of God, as proponents of the Bible as written, that are not teaching what's in the Bible, nor are they representing themselves to be true men of God. They're out to get what's best for themselves, and they're using you to do it. So I'm talking about those people, okay? Now, if your pastor's not like that, then we're not talking about you, and we're not talking about your pastor. But think about all the stories you've heard in the news. And these are just the ones that make national news. These are just the ones we hear about. The things that are hushed up in communities, or they never even make it out of the pastor's office or out of the office of the board of directors. You don't hear about those things, sometimes for decades later. That does not mean that these things are not happening. My goal with this book is to raise the alarm, is to give women the opportunity to understand what kinds of games are being run in their churches, and then the tools to do something about it. That's all. It's a vetting process. So you would take this information, it's almost like a checklist, and you can see, there's a section here where it says, is your church church or is it a cult? Well, there's a list of descriptive features. You can go down it and you can determine that for yourself. If you determine that the church you're attending right now is more cult-like than it is Christ-like, well, then you know what to do. I mean, you may decide to stay there, but still, that's your business. You would do it knowing what you're getting into. There's another chapter where we talk about pastors that are actually sociopaths. Now, that is a little heavier. There's a long checklist of behaviors and attitudes exhibited by these types of individuals. You can go down the list and you can see, is my pastor exhibiting the traits of a sociopath? If so, once again, you now have the tools to make a determination about what you want to do. Is this guy someone you really want to associate with? You want your children around? You want to give your money to? Or would you rather seek out someone else to associate with and be your religious leader? I'm trying to provide you with tools. That's it. The same thing I do in my advice column about determining if a man is the right kind of guy to date, if he is what his motives are. It's exactly the same principle. That's what I do. So in this particular instance, it's about your spiritual salvation instead of your heart and your relationship. But the principles of what I'm doing for you are exactly the same. There's another section, a whole chapter in the book that talks about pedophiles. And you know the stories in the news about that. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's like every week somebody's in church molesting a child. There's a guy that just got charged with 14 counts of child sexual abuse out of LA. a pastor in Los Angeles is under arrest. That would just happen this week. And you know Eddie Long, and just think about Sandusky and all the stuff he did, even though he's not a black pastor. The children that were involved were black. So see, these are the kind of things I want parents to understand. You know, I want single mothers work hard. Honey, I get it. I understand. But ladies, the problem is when you get tired, which you're inevitably going to do, you want to try to, you know, put some of the, you need assistance, and you want to put some of the responsibility for your child on other people. Sometimes that's not a good thing, and so you want to really understand the kind of person that you're trusting to be alone with or around, frequently around your child. In this chapter, I set up the entire methodology that pedophiles use to do what's called groom your child for sexual abuse. All the steps that they take, all the steps they take to prep you to get to make the move that they're going to make very easy. I also tell you how to determine if your child has been abused, and then you're giving tools on what to do about it. So in each instance, I'm saying, well, these are the things that I've noticed that are happening, and people have been telling me are happening in churches. These are the problems that those actions cause. This is how those actions are going to affect you or your children, maybe both, and this is what you can do about it. So it is a step-by-step guide right here. The Black Church, where women pray and men pray, and it talks about all the things that I'm just telling you right now. It starts with a little history of the Black Church, and then it goes on and talks about submission of women, the pimp game of churching, the con game of what I call churchianity, which is exactly what it is. If you're not in the right environment, you're being conned. There's the checklist, everything. There's a noticeable checklist that you can use as a tool with, like I said, testimonies from people who have actually lived these experiences. This book is a very serious book. There's got a lot of great information for you, man, woman, or child. Yes, it's going to be hard for you to read. I have no doubt about that. If you are deeply ingrained in the church, a lot of the principles that I'm going to be criticizing are probably things that are near and dear to you. Like I said, you're the ultimate authority. You decide what you want to do. All this is doing is giving you tools to examine those things, because a church is just like a business. You provide money for a service. You provide your time for a service. You have a certain expectations of a service being delivered to you that is in line with the Bible, in line with Christ. If it is not in any way, and yet you are still behaving as if you're treating this individual as if they're doing the right thing, then that means you're being gamed on and you're being conned. And what I would want to do is to, you know, just to raise your awareness of it, so that you can recognize the games when they're being played. You can recognize when someone is telling you some non-scriptural BS, and then you'll know what to do about it. Okay, that's it. That's all we're going to do. So the book is available on my website, where Women Pray, Men Pray, PREY for the last one, .com, and you can find out more information about the book there. If you want to connect with me, just send me a message there. You can do it right from the website. You can also find great information about dating and relationships in general on my blog, survivingdating.com. So if you get the book, you know, go on, order your copy. If you have any questions at all, feel free to send me a note. I'll be happy to hear what you have to say, and we'll also be looking for your review. Pro or con, you know, we want to hear what you got to say. That's the way it is in the literary world. Everybody doesn't agree with you, but I think there's enough value here. I'm very confident that the book, it's past time for a book like this to be written. Very open, very honest, and critical of the business of church, which is exactly what it is. All right, you guys, any other questions, let me know. I'll talk to you soon.